Good morning. Good morning. Let me also acknowledge present here today with me is the Mayor Pro Tem, Dave Martin, and Councilmember Carla Cisneros. Thank you both for being here. And then we have, of course, Chief Aceveda is present. We have, well, we'll be talking about another commander who's here. Chief Slinkard is present, and Chief Fenner is also present. Let me start off by saying I want to congratulate the newest member of the Houston Police Department's command staff, Commander Ben Tien, who has been appointed the Assistant Chief effective today, Monday, October the 19th. So, Chief Tien. Thank you so very much. Assistant Chief Tien is well known within the ranks of the Houston Police Department and in the community, and thanks in part to the excellent leadership he has provided in recent years during special events and during his prior command assignment at the South Gessner Patrol Division. He has been with HPD for more than 20 years, and in his new role, he will oversee Patrol Region 1 Command. He replaces recently retired Assistant Chief Henry Garr, who left us for Katy Independent School Districts, and again, congratulations to Chief Tien. Now let me turn to HPD as a whole in the city. The Houston Police Department is committed to having the right leadership and officers on the front line, men and women, to protect and serve our community. Unfortunately, major cities across the nation, including Houston, are experiencing an increase in homicides, shootings, and other crimes during the COVID-19 pandemic. There is no denying that the virus has contributed to anxiety and stress throughout as people cope with job losses, feeling of isolation, the illness or death of loved ones, children learning at home virtually, and fear of the unknown. An October 6 news article in the New York Times reported that the COVID-19 pandemic has frayed all kinds of institutions and infrastructure that hold communities together, that watch over streets, that mediate conflicts, that simply give young people something to do, programs devised to reduce gun violence and that prove effective have been upended by the pandemic. As a city, we have worked on these unprecedented times to help people holistically. For instance, the Houston Health Department launched a mental health support hotline, and again, which is available 7 days a week from 1 to 11 p.m., and you can reach that someone on that mental health support line by calling 713-999-9442, 713-999-9442. We have expanded the anti-trafficking division to include domestic violence because domestic violence calls are up, and Chief Aceveda has spoken to that previously. We also announced the Maker Collective, an economic empowerment program for survivors with wraparound financial services. Through skills training, we help survivors achieve financial independence. The city also provided 2 rental assistance packages totaling more than $35 million for Houstonians having trouble paying their rent as a result of hardships created by the pandemic. And the City of Houston passed the City Small Business Economic Relief Program, which will be funded with $15 million of the CARES 2020 funds. The program is for small businesses that are most in financial need and exhibit a moderate to high likelihood of surviving the pandemic's adverse impacts. And today, I'm announcing that to combat crime and decrease the numbers, in addition to all of those other initiatives, I have approved a COVID-19 related crime reduction program. We will put $4.1 million of CARES Act funding into an overtime initiative for the Houston Police Department. HPD is anticipating an upward trend of COVID-19 in the city of Houston as schools and businesses begin to open and quite frankly, as the hardship caused by this pandemic continues. Overall, violent crime is up 11% in the city of Houston, and we want to do everything we can over the next 2.5 months to try to dampen that, that crime increase that we are seeing. There are 6 hotspots that are driving our violent crime numbers. Those spots are the West Side, South Gessner, North Belt, Southeast, South Central, and Midwest. Beginning today through the end of the year, there will be an additional 110 officers deployed each day to saturate those areas with the objective of reducing crime and increasing our law enforcement presence. Throughout those areas, HPD officers will be on a proactive patrols to reduce crime. Chief Officer Vader will have more details in a few minutes, but the overall goal of this initiative is to drive down violent crimes by promoting safer neighborhoods through enforcement strategies and by combining with all of the other things that we are doing. The hope is that we'll take a more holistic approach in meeting the needs of people as they go through this, as we all go through this crisis of the pandemic, but at the same time providing law enforcement with the additional resources, boots on the ground. Police cannot do it alone. HPD will coordinate its efforts with the business districts, business owners, local leaders, local community groups in conducting this overtime initiative. Each crime victim is more than a number. It is someone's family members, a father, a mother, or a child. And this is our city, and we must work together. And as mayor, I certainly will work with each and every one to do our part to keep a safe city. I close by simply saying that keeping a safe city is not up to HPD alone. It involves each and every one of us. And we recognize that we have to tackle it by doing things on multiple levels in order to address what we are seeing. Now let me pause and let me turn it over to Chief Officer Vader.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor, so much for having us and for recognizing the promotions that we're going to be having today with your support, and to Commander now, Assistant Chief Bintan, congratulations. One of the things that he's a very humble man. He has served overseas in the United States Army. Actually, he's won the Bronze Star on more than one occasion, and you wouldn't know it because the man is just even keeled. And Martha Castick-Tatum has threatened to, me bodily harm, Mayor, because we're removing him from there. But like I told her, if she thinks he was a good commander, he's going to be just as good as an assistant chief. And behind him is Vidal Lopez, who will promote to commander #1 on the list. And we're very proud of him. He actually put together a lot of initiatives for our immigrant communities, and we're all proud of you, and thank you so much, Mayor, for your support. But we're here to talk about something that's near and dear to our hearts, and that's the safety of the people of Houston. And one of the things that I love about this city is that we're led by a mayor who's supported by a council that understands that investments in safety is not a luxury, but it's a priority and it's a necessity. And Mayor, I want to just say on behalf of all of us and the people that we serve, thank you for your support, and to your council colleagues, because we know that this year has been a year like no other year in the history of our nation, in the history of our city, in the history of our state, the history of this police department, where COVID is having an impact that is, from day one, we've talked about it as a three-pronged impact on the people of this country and really the free world, and that is the public health impact in terms of public health and the impact of the disease itself on people, the virus. Second was the economic impact on companies and on families and people losing their jobs. And the third piece is really the public safety impact, and that's what we're here to talk about. We know that when people lose their jobs, when people are stressed, when people are not out and about, that this is having an impact. And so today, thanks to the mayor and his leadership, we're going to be able to leverage our #1 asset, and that's the men and women in the front lines, that will be using our data-driven initiatives, that will be relying on data to add more officers, more eyes, more visibility, and most importantly, more safety for our people and the people of Houston. We will focus, as the mayor said, on 6 hotspots, but we are constantly looking for hotspots. This can change because we know that it will have an impact, and if we displace the crime, the violent criminals, we are going to be watching on a daily basis, and we'll have tactical intelligence, and we will move our resources as needed because we know that displacement can occur. But the focus will be West Side, South Gesner, North Belt, Southeast, Midwest, and South Central. Now, that's the focus. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be working just as diligently in the rest of the city. And again, we will be using about 110 officers a day starting immediately. The other thing that this is going to really help us with, mayors, is the CERT teams. I just came from the Major City Chiefs discussion. And this city does have a model, and that is our CERT team model. And thanks to the funding you're providing, we're going to be able to increase our CERT teams out in the field that can handle the mental health crises. They handle them very effectively, and we believe that this will have an impact as well. We're also very excited because you know that the more work that we do on the front lines to actually catch people committing crimes, it leads to investigative efforts, and we know that this funding is going to give us greater capabilities, not just in the front lines, but our investigative approaches, and we really believe that we're going to actually save lives. We won't be able to ever say and point to a specific case, or we may, but we can say definitively that as a result of this investment, that we will be much better positioned to actually disrupt, prevent, and actually uncover suspects of crime and bring them to justice. So on behalf of the victims who we will be able to secure justice for through this investment, thank you, Mayor and Council. And on behalf of the victims that will never become victims in the domestic violence efforts that we're going to be working on and so forth, thank you for your proactive work and for this investment. We look forward to sharing the results, and to the people of Houston, just remember, you are our eyes and ears. If you know something, say something, and call us right away. La comunidad latina, real quickly, gracias a Alcalde Turner por su liderazgo. Gracias a estos fondos de más de $4 millones. Sabemos que la violencia en este país por el COVID, por este virus, ha subido en todas partes del país, especialmente las ciudades grandes. Y gracias al liderazgo del alcalde Mayor y sus colegas, vamos a poder poner más de 110 policías diariamente en la comunidad, en nuestras calles, en nuestras escuelas, en nuestros lugares de negocio, para mantener la seguridad pública. Y más importante, sabemos que vamos a tener por el virus más víctimas. El crimen violento ha subido por 11%, pero sabemos que la seguridad pública es algo que es muy importante, y gracias a este alcalde vamos a tener fondos que no hemos tenido para poder, de nuevo, 110 policías diariamente, más policías, investigadores, también nuestros esfuerzos y nuestras unidades que van a las llamadas a personas que están en la emergencia psicológica. Vamos a tener más unidades también haciendo eso, y también combatiendo la violencia doméstica. Así que al alcalde, muchas gracias, y también felicidades a nuestro asistente jefe nuevo, Bentien, que con el apoyo del alcalde hoy va a ser, en vez de comandante, va a ser jefe. Y atrás de Bentien tenemos a Vidal López, número 1 en la lista de comandantes, y también quiero felicitarlo a él y a su familia. El comandante López fue el que empezó muchas de nuestras iniciativas para educar a la comunidad hispana y migratoria y toda nuestra comunidad, que no tenga temor, que aquí estamos para ayudarlos y para dar seguridad. So again, Mayor, thank you very much for your leadership, and we look forward to keeping Houston safe.
Thank you, Chief Acevedo, and we'll take any questions that anyone may have. Sure. Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, and I know you just got here. Do you mind using the mic so people listening can hear it? And if you want to, go ahead. Sorry. That's okay.
Okay, repeat that again. You're the pool
Okay,
camera.
I'm the pool, so this is a question from Channel 2.
Okay,
My
sure,
question.
sure.
And they,
And we'll deal with the initiative first as well.
okay. And it says the chief mentioned that you were trying to find extra funding to help police combat the rise in homicide numbers. Is extra funding possible? And how would any extra funding be used to combat this increase?
Yes, the $4.1 million are the federal CARES funding. So the funding is already being utilized. It falls within the parameters that we allow to use it for. And I think it's universal acceptance. That's what's happening now with the rise in crime across the country is related to this pandemic crisis and all of the challenges that people are facing on so many different levels. So we can use the dollars from the CARES funding for this overtime program, something that was not previously budgeted, and so this $4.1 million will be utilized between now and the end of the year.
Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Mayor, I have a few questions.
Sure.
Chief, can you just say the 6 different zones again, where this is going to be?
You want to come, Chief?
Okay, the 6 hot spots that we're starting with, but again, remember, we're going to be looking at the data on a daily basis, and as sometimes you'll displace crime, we're going to make sure that we stay on the heels of the criminals. Is West Side, South Gesner, North Belt, Southeast, Mideast, and South Central. West Side, South Gesner, North Belt, Southeast, Midwest, and South Central. But keep in mind that does not mean that we're not going to continue to aggressively combat violent crime across the city, the rest of the city. This will be a focus, but violent criminals are mobile. They may be operating in Southeast today, and while we're trying to impact them, they may be going to another part of town to victimize Houstonians, and this initiative will really help the entire city, not just those 6 hot spots.
And there's been a sort of marked increase in homicides. Has there been any discussion about trying to provide more resources to like homicide investigators or anything like that?
Yeah, some of this funding will include additional funding for investigative efforts to combat violent crime, which includes homicide division and some of our gang division and some of our other divisions that focus on violent crime.
And my last question is, it's been about 3 weeks almost since the recommendations from the task force came out. You have yet to really address them in any meaningful way. Have you had a chance to look at
Sure,
them?
we've actually looked at it. Do you, Mayor, this is like two seconds. We've looked at the report. First and foremost, I want to thank again the mayor for his leadership. We always like to say in our department that adversity is truly an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be, to really look inward, look outward, and look for opportunities to continue the evolution of policing. So I want to thank the mayor for his leadership and for making it happen very quickly. You can look at other cities; their task force are going a lot longer in terms of coming up with recommendations. Out of the recommendations, we completely agree and support 94 right off the bat, and 96, excuse me, and 95. Okay, well, you know, somewhere in the mid-90s. Third time's a charge is 95. And the few others, it's not we don't support them in concept, but I think there's got to be more conversation to see exactly what wants to be adopted. So we look forward with working with the mayor and the task force and the community to actually put these recommendations into action. They were very thoughtful, and to Mr. Payne, Dr. Payne, I think that, you know, you got to have diversity in terms of thought and diversity in terms of experience, diversity in terms of the prism of which we lived our lives, because I think it informs us. And that was a very diverse working group, and I think it shows in just how thoughtful that those recommendations were. So we want to thank Dr. Payne and all the members of the task force for their hard work and the deliberation.
And so when can we expect to hear more from you about that in detail?
Well, I think you'll hear from us in the next few weeks as we continue to get the answers to some of the questions so we can have that dialogue. And then again, the boss is right here, and I'm sure he's going to have more to say. I don't want to speak for the mayor, but I'm sure he'll have more to say in the weeks to come as well.
Thanks.
And I will say to you that we're already moving on a number of them. one of the things that's very important, and that's the expansion of the crisis and intervention response teams. We are all in agreement that would be good for the city overall. And so where we can start expanding, we intend to do that. But we are also looking for community additional support, for additional funding to expand significantly the crisis intervention response team. We are already looking at how we are going to revamp the Independent Police Oversight Board. Those steps are already in progress. The data, what do you call it? The data, what do you call it? The dashboard. The dashboard is already moving forward and it's been put together as we speak. So there are a number of things. We've already taken a look at the 104 recommendations and working with Chairman Payne. He's also, we've identified a number of the recommendations that we can do within the next 30 to 60 days, and we're being very intentional on moving forward to get those things done. So that's where we are right now. Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question related to that. Two of the recommendations in there related to the HPOU contract, which is expiring at the end of December. Is that something you're considering in these talks that are ongoing, or?
Well, that's a part of the within the contract and the negotiations. At some point, we will have those conversations. The contract itself expires at the end of the year, but at some point, those conversations will take place.
So are you interested in incorporating any of the suggestions about the discipline protocols in the contract?
Well, we're certainly taking a look at all of that. I don't rule anything out. And I envision that there will be some very heartfelt conversations. And we are certainly taking the recommendations of the task force into consideration. But I look forward to having those conversations.
And do you know when those conversations are going to take place?
We have not scheduled anything at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Anything else? Again, congratulations to you, Chief Tien, and then congratulations to Officer Lopez for being the next in line. So congratulations to you as well. Chief Acevedo, thank you so very much. Look forward to working with you. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, assistants, thank you all. Okay, thank you. Busy day. Oh, I'm sorry. Since we'll be doing this press conference right now, let me just go ahead on and just mention the positivity rate for this week. The positivity rate in the city of Houston has inched up. So to this week, it is at 5.6. As you know, last week, this time, it was at 5, so it's inched up. So this is a reminder to everyone in the city of Houston. We recognize what you certainly can see what's taking place in other cities and other states across the country. Utah, the hospitalization, I think, is more than 100%. In Wisconsin, things have gone up dramatically. So we can see what's taking place in other cities across the state, in the state as well as across the country. So let me encourage people in the city of Houston. We've been here before where we've seen these rising numbers, but we have the opportunity this time to blunt the progression of this virus. Please, I implore you to put your mask on and to keep them on when you are in the presence of other people, okay? Let me ask you to do that. The social distance, the physical separation, still critically important, okay? Avoid large gatherings where possible. And if you're in the midst of other people, please put these masks on. Until an effective vaccine comes on the scene, these masks are our vaccine. And they do work. They do work. And so I want to encourage all of Houston to let's recognize what's happening in other places throughout the country, and let's do our part as we move into the fall, going into the winter, to take those preventative steps so that people are not reporting on us across the country about the numbers going up, hospitalizations, surge capacity, all of that. When we see what's happening in other places, then let's just exercise some common sense. With respect to Halloween that's coming up, the health department has issued its guidelines and its recommendations. You just need to do things a lot different than the past. The Thanksgiving dinners and things of that nature, things will have to be different this time around. So I just want to put this cautionary note out here. Now that the numbers have inched up on the positivity from 5 to 5.6, before it gets much higher, I'm asking people to check your behavior. I know people are tired. I know the fatigue exists. I got that, the fatigue. But let's not fuel the virus. They're still looking for some wood to burn. And by us coming together, we provide that wood for it to burn, and we don't want it to become a forest fire. So press the brakes right now. I know I was on a phone call, on a Zoom call last night, and there were some people having, on the Zoom call, but they had some people, and they were having dinner, friends and neighbors and others, and not one of them, had on a mask. So I started to call Chief Acevedo to give him the address so he could go and write them, give them a warning first, and then quickly write them a ticket, and I say that in a humorous way, okay? But the point is, don't let your guard down, okay? Let's not go back to June and July and August. Those were painful months for us. So please, please, please exercise just some common sense, and let's stay safe. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.